Broadcasting will be a thrill. Grandpa and chill, grandson and friends. Grandpa and chill in full effect. We talk about it all, yeah, put it all on the set with that pet craze too. We chillin' with Rosie, come through, stay tuned, yeah, listen closely. Cause this the millennials and the silent generation coming together, discussion in rotation. This is Grandpa and Chill.
Hey everybody, I'm Brandon Fox. This is another episode of Grandpa and Chill. I'm here with our amazing co-host, as always, Phines, our amazing producer, Sierra, Grandpa, of course, and then our amazing guest today is Diane Gilman.
Hi.
Yeah, we were just getting into what you were all about, but if you could go back and just say what you were saying a second ago, it was really
So
powerful.
we were just talking about my book, Too Young to Be Old, and I'll explain the title as we go. And I was, we always ask, what are in the intro call before the show, what do you want to be talking about? What do you not want to be talking about? So I said that the main part of my theme and my life at this point is about inspiring women in my age bracket, let's say 55 plus. And the big point in my book is making lemonade out of lemons, which is something I never thought had anything to do with me. I always saw myself as a super self-critical, not really totally optimistic person. I was always under pressure to perform. I was always sure I wasn't going to perform. Then I did it and was whoop, and then it was on to the next show. 30 years on QVC HSN. So my thought was, when I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, I was living in a bubble. When you are a fashion designer in Manhattan and you're on TV too, you are just surrounded by people that make you function and are always there to sort of buffer you. But cancer is a great leveler, and cancer is a great teacher. And I came through that dark tunnel into the light when I was cured, totally reassessing my life. It totally changed my values. It made me a more empathetic person, a more sympathetic person. I realized that, and I realized it through cancer, because cancer doesn't care if you're on television. Cancer doesn't care if you designed the perfect gene, which I did for middle-aged women. Cancer doesn't care if you're pretty or you have money or you live in Manhattan in a penthouse. All of that was such a huge learning curve for me, believe it or not. You know, fashion on its own is really a frivolous industry, honestly. And television is the great deceiver. You know, and one thing I did learn is you can be whoever you want on television. So I had my TV persona, I had my personal persona, I had all of these views on where I'd gotten in life, and then boom, I ran right into that cancer wall. And I'll tell you a story that was probably the most cathartic event during all the cancer treatment. So I was lucky enough to go to Mount Sinai in New York City, go to the Dubin Center, which is just about breast cancer. And just by the luck of the draw, I got the head surgeon. So I'm feeling pretty okay about everything, stage 3. But, you know, I had sort of had my Pollyanna hat on. I'm sitting in my chemo room. We all had private rooms. And, I expect to be recognized. I've been on TV for 30 years. I expect people to want to talk to me about what I do because they love my designs, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting infusion, and somebody walks in next door, a patient. And suddenly all the nurses start screaming, "Oh my God, Sheila's here! Sheila's here! Come on, guys!" And they all go stampeding into the room next to me. "Sheila, how are you? Sheila, you look great. Sheila, how are you feeling? Oh, Sheila, we've got your favorite lunch today." Because they used to serve us. This place was incredible. You got a catered organic lunch. It was a foot massage, a shoulder massage, everything. So no one came in and asked me if I wanted lunch. So I'm thinking, who is this chick, Sheila? She must be like a famous news anchor or someone from a star on Broadway. Or So the nurse comes in to see how I'm doing, and I said, well, like, what am I, chopped liver? Nobody asked me if I wanted lunch. They said, "Diane, you never have lunch." I said, "But you could ask me." "Okay, Diane, do you want lunch today?" "Well, no, thank you. But who's Sheila? And you just told her that you saved 3 lunches for her. Who is this woman? I've got to know. Tell me." And I'm expecting it's somebody like Martha Stewart in disguise with a pseudonym. And no, they said Sheila is a homeless mother living in a shelter, and the food is so horrible that she goes for days without eating, and the only really good meal she has is once a week when she comes to lunch via her cancer treatment, her chemotherapy, and we try to save enough sandwiches for her. So for the next 3 days, she'll have one meal a day, but she'll enjoy it. It killed me. I mean, it was, it's only now, after a few years away from it, that I can even talk about it without bursting in tears. Um, that was the greatest lesson in life I ever learned. And I took that with me. It motivated me to write my book, and hopefully for women to see that journey through breast cancer as something that can be the greatest learning lesson ever, something that can put you on the right road for the rest of your life and even give you purpose and direction. So that's what we were talking about before we
Yeah.
went on there.
Yeah. Wow.
What do you guys think?
Well, it's a very pulling story. Is there something about being cured of breast cancer and going through it all different from any other unfortunate, serious situation that happens to a person in life?
I think I think, first of all, when I got the diagnosis, it was just horrible. And I just went to some community sonogram center, and they came in and just said, "You're hopeless. You're hopeless. Cancer everywhere." What they meant was there was cancer everywhere in my breast, but it was, whew, that was amazing. And that would probably be any diagnosis you could get, where it basically said the interpretation was, your life is over. Your life as you know it is over, totally and forever. And I went home. It was Christmas Eve, perfect day to have it happen. 2017, I went home, and I locked the doors and I thought, I'm just going to sit here for about 5 days and absorb this. But the guy that had actually said, you've got to get to some kind of diagnostic center immediately, my excuse was always, my career's too busy. I was truly peaking in my career. I was flying all over. Well, that's interesting. Europe and you've got a parrot in your pocket. What are you doing? That is really cute. Okay, never seen that before in a podcast. So anyway, I was at the peak. I was always in some European city because I took my brand global, but they needed me for TV. Um, and I don't think my diagnosis was any different from saying you've got diabetes or you've got Crohn's disease or you've got any kind of um, disease that is really going to limit you. And I was so healthy, I had never been in a hospital my entire life. So I remember calling my friend who was a doctor that said, you better go find out what this is. It doesn't look good. And he's leaving New York City Harbor on a cruise. So I felt so deserted. And he said, no, I'm going to call a friend of mine. The friend happened to be a very famous doctor, Alyssa Port, who is now the head surgeon for all cancer at Mount Sinai. She was lifting off the ground to go to Marrakesh for Christmas. And she just got off one text to me, see you January 5th, 8:45 a.m., coming straight from JFK. And when she looked at me, and you're very lucky if you get anybody in the medical community who truly speaks your language as a layman. She looked at me and looked me up and down and said, if I had to guess, I would say you are a perfectly healthy individual with a containable disease in a part of your body you don't need if we have to take it away. And I thought, my kind of girl, I get it. She knew me from television and she said, women like you, Diane, always do best in treatment because you have worked so hard all your life. This just becomes another job. And I, in fact, did go on there about 2-3 weeks later and said to my audience, I'm leaving probably for about a year. I've got a new job saving my life, but I'll be back. And I was back in 9 months. But the point is, when you are in a position like that, where the news is stunning, where I think I was in shock for about a year, you've got to believe in yourself, as difficult as that is. And I did. I believed that my body had the resources, especially if I had the right attitude, to make this happen. And so, where I felt that many times in my life, I treated an event as if it was a dress rehearsal. I remember the night before chemo saying to myself, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. And you better recognize it and work with it. And the one thing I really wanted to do was not battle the chemotherapy, but work with it and get into the flow of it and get through it in one piece, mentally and physically, which I did. But it is equatable to almost any huge event in your life that looks insurmountable. And, did I expect that to happen at 72 years old? Never. I thought I was just going to sail through. I felt I'd paid my dues, but not quite yet. But I was so clarified when I came out the other end that it set me up for the rest of my life, and hopefully becoming a spokeswoman for women my age and making their lives better.
Was it initially almost even harder because you always had been so healthy and like it was even bigger of a shock?
Huge, beyond huge. Seriously. I'd always been healthy. I'd always I never had I never had a serious disease. I never had anything. Uh, so the hospital atmosphere for me, amazingly enough, Dubin Breast Cancer Center was founded by a woman who married, actually, she was Jeffrey Epstein's better half for, I think, about 15 years. But then she married a guy from Wall Street who became a billionaire, and she got breast cancer, hated the way she was treated, and took everything she hated and turned it around into an environment for women that was so soothing, so welcoming. I lucked out again. I mean, you really felt like you were being nurtured, down to everything, down to even the decorations. You always had fresh white orchids in your chemo room. And so that was an incredible experience as well. And then she and I became friends. And then I got chosen as like patient of the year because they always want to tell a good story. So, there's me. And I had just been this sort of hardworking but pampered New York fashion designer and TV personality. And suddenly it was like, take a number, you're just another patient. I had a lot to learn, and quickly, too. Never resented it, never said, why me? Never was bitter about it. I just thought to myself in the most pragmatic way, it could be any disease. It could be a chronic disease that you can't get better from, but it's not. It's a disease where you can contain it, and at the same time, I said to myself, I am not going to box myself in with a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. I'm going to come through this and just see it as another period, an episode in my life, and damn it, I'm going to make the most of it. And so I did, because I'm very proud of the book I wrote. And that Christmas Eve, after talking to my doctor friend and finding out I had a surgeon, and I called a good friend of mine, Jan Tuckwood, who was the senior editor at the Palm Beach Post, had written a lot of good fashion stories about me, and said, guess what? I've got stage 3 cancer. Let's write about it. If I don't make it, it's a legacy. And if I do make it, it's a great story. And I knew I needed something to give it purpose and to occupy my brain so it wasn't constantly whirling around with stage 3, stage 3. And so that turned out great too.
It sounds like you have a very positive attitude, and that's helped.
It does sound like that, but actually, no. I mean, I would go to do shows, and I'm like, I've got such stage fright. Why am I in television if I've got such stage fright? Well, I mean, I just got in there by accident, and they made the most of that. But no, really, I think faced with the biggest challenge of my life, which was breast cancer, I just said to myself, it is not a dress rehearsal. You cannot screw around anymore and say, oh, maybe I won't make it. Oh, my God. No, all of that had to go. And I had to purify my brain and say, okay, we're going to go into this with the best attitude ever. And the one thing I did that was very deliberate, I thought to myself, these chemo nurses are under phenomenal pressure. They don't get paid well. They're dealing with very sick people and people that hate being in this position. And in a way, I hated it too. I mean, I felt like I was caged. I was caged by the disease and the treatment, which is so brutal. So I said, I'm going to be the most popular patient. I'm going to make them love me. So when I come in, there's like, ha, Diane's here, a ray of sunshine. So every time I came in, how are you feeling? Great. Here, let's get this into your veins. Okay. I never complained. I never put pressure on them. It was the weirdest thing. I just knew what to do. I knew what to do and I knew I had to do it. Something in me activated another Diane. And that, yes, that Diane was very positive. And you know, that positivity has stayed with me. Amazing.
When you have breast cancer, are you do you suffer pain or discomfort from the cancer itself, or
Not even. Nothing. Didn't feel sick. Felt a lump, but just fooled myself and said it was, oh, it must be calcium deposits. I had no cancer in my family at all. So I thought, well, genetically, it can't be cancer, but it was. And I was just fooling myself. And that probably is the hallmark of cancer, but most particularly breast cancer, is you feel nothing, absolutely nothing. And then one day, whoa, there's this big lump there. And I was just in such a state of denial. And I was on such a hamster wheel. The hamster wheel of, for me, my television, which is Stellar Retail, QVC Europe, HSN America. You're the creator of the product. You're the face of the product. You've got to be there. And it was London and back, Florida and back, Toronto and back. I was just relentlessly traveling. And I just kept telling myself, I don't have time to be sick. Number one. Number two, my karma is good. I'm not going to be sick. That's ridiculous. And so that it was only through my own denial that it was such a surprise. If I'd been honest with myself, I probably would have recognized it a couple of years earlier. Not sure how different the treatment would have been, but in the state I was in, they did have to give me chemo, the strongest form of chemo, for the longest amount of time a body can tolerate it. And boy, was I happy with that last treatment. It was just sort of unbelievable. But, you know, chemo becomes your point of sociability. And then I went back to work right away. I got radiation, had a suitcase in the dressing room in the basement of Mount Sinai for radiation, and grabbed the suitcase the minute that last treatment was over, went straight to an airport and went on TV. And then 4 months later, I was about to go to the studio. I was down in Tampa where HSN is. And I looked at my phone and there was this like big red light and it said, caution, caution, studio closed, COVID. So I got back to the city just in time. And because I was in a delicate state without a fully functioning immune system, we all became prisoners of our dwellings, but me especially, because I live 5 blocks from Mount Sinai. So Mount Sinai was like COVID central. I was scared to go outside. We were doing shows through Zoom and Skype out of your home, so I was still able to work. But that was strange.
Did you have like a best friend or someone that you were really relying on during this time, or?
You know, I had to make some serious decisions about who were my friends and who weren't. I will say, on one level, and I was very touched, people signed up. I mean, I had a list of people that wanted to come to COVID with me. And so I never went alone. There was always someone there with me, talking to me, in the room with me. Um, I didn't rely on any one person. I had a boyfriend, kind of a friend with benefits. The minute he heard cancer, he was out the door. He could not handle it. And that's what I found with a lot of people was they treated me like I was surely going to die. So I couldn't have anybody cry around me because then I never cried. Um, I didn't want pity. I wanted support. And some people just had to leave my life because they weren't good for this situation. And some people then dropped into my life. It turned out that my head salesman at my company was diagnosed with prostate cancer at the very same time. And I would say, if I had to say, there was one person that was going to help me through. We helped one another. That was an incredible symbiotic relationship. And I also remember him calling me and he said, it was right after the diagnosis. And he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I got an MRI and this morning I'm going to find out, did cancer spread throughout my body, or is the cancer contained and we can move forward with a plan to cure." And he said, "Well, who are you going with?" And I said, "Nobody. I wouldn't put anybody through that." And he said, "No, you're not going with nobody. I'm coming up there immediately." So he actually had a much rougher time than I did with the chemotherapy. It really made him sick. And yes, if I had to say there was one support, what are the odds that your
Yeah.
Wow.
head primary salesman and in touch with the whole sales force would be diagnosed and freaking out as we do? And so, yeah, from that point of view, I think that was just an amazing coincidence or karma or something, and we really helped one another out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, finest.
Cool. A lot of cool things. Let's see. What should I nerd out about? Um,
Ah,
I guess I what. Okay, thing I want to nerd out about. I'm just gonna go with it.
okay,
I like the cancer. I'm also learning about like Joseph Campbell and like the hero's journey. It's about the hero's journey. It's the story of the hero, right?
okay,
The human existence. Why humans
okay.
do the things they do. Um, and there's a part where it's like this near death experience that wakes you up, that makes you unlock your purpose. But I think you're really cool because also your doctor, your cancer doctor, that was going through saying people like you do well. And I was saying that in my notes, I think the reason why you do well is because you make a purpose in almost everything that you do, be
Yes,
it like, yeah, be the most sociable person. I mean, you just said it. So many things you were talking about, like you just had something that you had to do and you were fixated on it. So I thought it was funny that you had near death experience already as a purposeful person. So then you had even more purpose, which is, I guess, now the writer and podcaster is what you're doing from that and being a
yeah,
spokesperson. And
yeah.
I guess I was going to ask about what your podcast was about because I didn't really know. And
So,
yeah.
even so, just knowing my fashion history, middle age hit me very hard as a woman. I'd become a widow. I was really, really, really sad for a long time. I gained a lot of weight. I went up to almost 200 pounds. So I was huge and I felt bad about myself and ugh. Nobody wanted to pay attention to me, and even the customers on air were writing in and saying, "Diane, you're so fat. You can't even wear your own clothing." I mean, it's awful. So I had to get a grip on middle age. And one thing I had done in my youth was I had been on the periphery of the whole music scene in LA in the 60s into the early 70s, and San Francisco too, and dressed Rod Stewart, hand painted leather jeans for him, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, the Jefferson Airplane, Sly and the Family Stone, Cher. So I couldn't believe middle age robbed me of being a cool chick. I was like, I couldn't believe this was happening. And so I couldn't find a jean because jeans were everything to me. That's what I used to do: embroider them, hand paint them, jewel them, slash them, patch them for rock and roll stars. Their denim, I would take their denim and do it. So when I couldn't find a jean that fit because jeans were just for the young, I was so upset. I was so angry. And then I thought, don't be stupid. Just go out and buy 3 yards of denim, take your measurements, make a jean for yourself. I did. And I remember the first day I wore it, I was 59 and a half. I was walking down 34th Street in Manhattan. Two young guys, were in a manhole, Con Ed guys. One guy looked up and went, "Hey, lady, you really got it going." And I thought, whoa, okay, feeling really good. This sets me up for like a whole month. That was how big I felt the compliment was. And then I started thinking to myself, makes me feel good. Wouldn't it make millions of women feel good? Aren't there millions of middle-aged women out there that feel invisible and unheard and underappreciated like me? So I brought it to television executives. None of the male executives got it at all. They were like, "Why do we want to see old women in jeans?" Thank you. And then we got a female CEO who had been there with Ralph Lauren and she helped found Polo Jeans. She gave me a chance, and boom, it was like a rocket ship. And we wound up year after year as $100 million a year brand, and international. Because my next thought was, I don't care whether you're eating fish and chips in London or you're eating a plate of pasta in Milan, you're going through the same hormonal changes I am. So I became a champion for middle-aged women. And I said, this jean is going to be hope in a pant leg. It's going to miraculously re-energize your social life. People are going to approach you and see you differently, as hipper, younger, more vital, smarter. And you know what? It was all true, because I only want to speak from an authentic voice. And I have now taken that and moved on to become a silver-haired influencer and spokeswoman for my Silverella sisterhood, and I'm really loving it. I'm just eating it up. Loving it. So there's another thing. I took a chance at 77 years old. I could have stayed as the #1 fashion personality on tele-retail forever, but the thrill was gone, and I thought, these are your precious years. Time is your most valuable commodity. Is this really what you want to do for the rest of your life? The answer was no. And I just took the plunge. And so I've been away from it for, this will be my 7-month mark at the end of July. And wow, just having the best time in my life. Who is that bird on your shoulder? I'm sorry, but that's a 600-pound gorilla in the room. I must ask.
It's Rosie, and she doesn't get along with you. I have 2 other birds in another room, and they'll fight. She'll fight with the other one. The other one will try to kill her.
You got to put the mic back up by you. I can't hear you.
The other bird will try to kill her. So I've got 2 separate rooms totally filled up with birds. Do you need a bird, by the way?
Well, my cats would probably love that, but I
Yeah,
don't think the
eat
bird
them.
would survive for long.
No, I don't think so.
But very cute. Very, I
So
see Rosie wants to be in the middle of everything. Yeah.
I'm a little bit confused. Did you start out as a designer,
Yes.
basically?
Yes.
Okay, so you're basically an artistic person that
Yeah.
designed clothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started out. I always wanted to design. Um, I was obsessed with fashion, even as a very little girl, and I just broke into it in such a unique way because I was in LA. I was at UCLA, and my best friend was dating Jim Morrison from The Doors. Another best friend was dating Steven Spielberg, who didn't even take classes at UCLA. He just would come in and hang out in the class every once in a while. It was a very different era, the early 60s, and there were not a lot of barriers between new generation artists like Steven Spielberg. And so it didn't take much to sort of get into that crowd. And then I started a store that was fashion cooperative. All dresses were $10. We sewed them all ourselves one day. And it was on Fairfax Avenue, right across from Katz's Delicatessen, where all the big celebrities used to hang out. So one day White Rolls pulled up. Sonny Bono got out. Cher got out. He went in to get his usual pastrami on rye. She doesn't eat that stuff. And she saw our little boutique, came in and bought every dress. Every dress. We had to close the store down for days and sew like 24 hours a day. But that was how I got into the periphery of the music scene. Followed it up to San Francisco, and then one day woke up and said, hello, you're 25 years old. You want to be a designer. It's never going to happen here. And the party eventually, I mean, it was fun. I'm not going to tell you that youth was not wasted on me, but there, you're wise if you leave the party at the height of the party, not when there's just two guys left, with stale beer and smoking cigarette butts. So I came to New York.
You weren't hanging around with all these singers, vocalists.
I kind of was.
As a groupie, you were
no,
interested in the design.
No.
You weren't a groupie. Okay.
No, I would never have. I don't have the emotional capacity to be a groupie. That's a whole different thing.
Are you in any way involved? And I don't know very much about the breast cancer situation, but I know they have this ribbon, the pink, and they take marches and all kinds of things to be able to support a cure for breast cancer.
I'm on the advisory board of Dubin Mount Sinai through my donations, and now I'm a mid-level sponsor of American Cancer Society as well.
The one I'm talking about, it's like a ribbon. It's kind of a ribbon that they wear.
You got to keep that next to your mouth. It's very hard for me to hear you.
It's like a ribbon that they have for breast cancer.
Well, I mean, you get that through how you support your local hospital, or so I'll get that when I go to. I think October 17th is the big breast cancer American Cancer Society party luncheon in New York. And so I want to take my podcast, Too Young to Be Old, and make all of October a celebration of breast cancer and have on guests who have been through it, come out differently on the other side, and really have an inspiring story, of which there are many. So it's just culling through all of it.
I just wanted to ask, it's a bit dark, but death, the mortality aspect of when you got the diagnosis and stuff.
We
Like
never talked about that. I didn't want to hear
never.
it. I was
Yeah.
not going to hear that. I believed from the minute I got that diagnosis with the MRI results that no, for some fucking amazing reason, it had not spread. And I had the
Yeah.
chance. She said, if it spread, Diane, you're maintainable for years, as it will be a chronic disease for you. If
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
hasn't spread, you are 100% curable. That's what
Amazing.
I clung on to.
Yeah.
Nothing else. I don't think about it in terms of, oh, it's been 5 years, or oh, it's been 6 years. And that's, the mortality rate is, if it's going to come back, it's going to come back within 5 or 6 years. But my attitude was, I am not going to die. I knew that with a certainty, absolute certainty. And I
Yeah.
never thought about it in any other way.
And
So,
it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the positive attitude and sort of the hopeful outlook, it's really helpful, I imagine, during that time.
that's, I had this crazy theory, and I said it to my oncologist, that I believe that if you had a lot of laughter in every day of your life, including the days post chemo, pre chemo, the chemo day, um, that it would flow through your bloodstream more fully and you get more benefit from it. And as nutty as that sounds, and I think they looked at me like I was slightly insane, but halfway through the most difficult chemo, the one they call the Red Devil, that's very difficult for a lot of women. Halfway through, my surgeon, Dr. Lissaport, came to me and she said, do you know your tumors have already shrunk so much that we
Wow.
could walk into the operating room right now? And I think at that point I didn't I believed in myself. I believed in myself even more. And I said, okay, so let's do it right now. I don't want to do chemotherapy anymore. And she said, no, you have to go through the rest of it. Radiation was nothing for me. And well, I don't know. Maybe I took my whole headset and just put it into a bright, sunny, contained space and made sure it stayed there for about a year and a half. But I did. I did. And my doctor said something so telling to me, because it is so difficult. I personally did not find the double mastectomy difficult at all, or really even painful. Um, but I said, I asked her about what was mastectomy going to be, and da 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 da, and she said the human body, especially women, have a mechanism where you may go through the pain now, and 3 or 4 days later, your body will not remember it. She said, think of all the women that go through childbirth, how painful it is, and a month later, they don't even remember it. And that was really true for me too. I never held any of the pain or any of the bad sick days to me. They just flowed off of me. And I think maybe that does come from a very strong mind. I don't want to give myself too much credit, but if I can pass on that hope and that wisdom and encourage every woman that's inside of you, you have this strength. I am not unique by any means in this situation. then I would like that to be my legacy. Then I will have done my job on earth. That's what I believe.
Yeah. And
Serious.
of course you wouldn't wish the diagnosis on anybody,
Oh
but
my
it's
God,
almost like,
no. No.
yeah, it's almost, yeah.
But you
Um,
are going to know within your lifetime 50%, 50% of the people you meet will have had cancer. And now they just published it, I think in the Washington Post, and said that we should start to view cancer as a chronic disease that can be, so your life can be maintained. So for melanoma, they've developed a vaccine. If they can cure you of your initial melanoma, you will take a vaccine and you can't get it again. The same is true, I believe, for some forms of lung cancer. Um, so I'm sure that breast cancer is right up there. And as a matter of fact, my doctors told me I was in the last generation of women that were going to get chemo. It will go to immunotherapy, which
oh wow.
has its own challenges. But, um, you know, I don't think I would have the attitude that I have today if I hadn't gone through what I did. And I see life as such a privilege and such a gift. And I want to make every minute count, and I want to do good for others because honestly, my life has been tough, but I was given so many gifts to begin with. You know, the ability to speak, the ability to design, the ability to better a lot of women's lives. And so I'd like to use every plus I have to somehow package that into a big bubble of hope and pass that on. Yeah, I'm in a really good place, and honestly, um, I came out of cancer in a zone of gratitude that never lessened, has only built as the years go by.
How do you think that people not going through something like that, but like just younger in their lives can take that advice and like feel like they're living their fullest lives, you know?
I always think that people that are younger, and I was that way too. My whole youth, all I did was bitch and complain. Oh, I haven't been discovered yet. I'm 30. It's too late to design anymore. Then it became 40. Then it became 50. Not many designers were even still designing at 60 years old, and almost nobody except Coco Chanel, who designed the Chanel suit at 72 years old, um, had their big moment at almost 60. So here's what I would say. You're never too old to dream, and you never know when your greatest moment or your big karmic opportunity is going to come. So you got to hang in there. And not only are you never too old to dream, but if you're going to dream big. Why not? And I had a dream all my life from the time I was a little girl that I would live in New York, that I would be a famous fashion designer, that I would be glamorous, that I would live on Fifth Avenue, that I would have a view of the Empire State Building. And guess what? It all happened. My apartment is on Fifth Avenue with a view of the Empire State Building. I got to be pretty well known. I triumphed in my field, fashion design, albeit late, 59 and a half, 60 years old. But you know what? Those years of being on top were so amazing and so sweet and so satisfying. And now I'm going to do it again at the age of, I'm about to turn in a couple of weeks 78. And I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to become a beacon of light for women on the internet and social media and YouTube. I've got a message. It's authentic. I'm dedicated to it. I'm devoted to getting it out there, and I believe in it.
Yo, that's great. I love it. It gives me life, and I'm so happy that you're. I'm so happy you made it. I'm so happy that you you deserve it. Deserve it.
Thank you.
Very good.
Everybody
Yeah,
deserves it. Everybody
yeah,
deserves happiness
that's true.
and contentment and feeling good about themselves. But
So, what do you
sometimes
think
they
about?
need to know how. What?
Okay, this is a quirky question because I was kind of writing about it because you brought up karma a couple times. Do you think getting breast cancer was good karma for you?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
totally.
all right.
Totally. You become so you just if you're a designer, if you're in two fields that are all about you all the time, 24/7, fashion, you're sort of off in this ivory tower. I mean, you're designing, but just as a pure fashion designer, you're not facing your customer. You're designing what you think they want. And so you're cut off from society, and you kind of like to keep it that way. And then if you're lucky enough to make some money, you can really build the castle around you and never go out. And then television, Marcia McLuhan, the medium is a message. If you're on TV, you must be important. If you're on TV, you must be bigger than life. That carries a huge cachet. And I don't think that I could sail into my third act, old age, with the kind of drive and the kind of to get out the message that I believe in. You have got to have tremendous empathy, and you've got to realize that not everybody is born talented, and if they are, not everybody, hardly anybody, knows what to do with it or has the drive to see it through as many years as I did. So, do I think breast cancer had a reverse effect from what most people think, which is it's just going to consume you and you're going to be whacked out and bitter and scared to death of your own shadow the rest of your life? I just it just turned me inside out. I became a different person. I'm not saying I'm Mother Teresa, but compared to what I was, close to it. So the worst the worst thing in your life can become the best thing. I'm living proof. Here I am.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
It's
big
funny.
book.
It's funny.
It
I love
is,
it.
isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
But if something scary or something bad or something happens to you, just think back on me. And I
Oh
think if
yeah.
you
No,
can put your head in the
you will.
right place, you can make it into something great.
Diane, this
I
is
got jokes. It's great. No, sorry, Grandpa. Ain't worry about it. Great.
Yes.
No, no. Yeah, go ahead, Grandpa.
What, Grandpa?
Yes.
You got to put the microphone next to
yeah,
you.
it's really a
We've been
different
telling him for
subject.
2 years.
But I was just going to ask you, if, as a clothing designer, do
Hi.
you go out to another manufacturer to manufacture the clothes? Is it manufactured overseas? Because I know
It
it's
had
very
to
expensive
be.
to.
No,
Yeah, you can't manufacture here.
for the price points we had to reach, which
Yeah,
was $39 for a jean. That was a really good jean too.
right.
It had to be China. There are no factories left. There's no. I mean, made in America for fashion is almost an impossibility. And a $39 jean, because we priced it, there's still a little bit of labor left in LA. I'm not sure it's legal, but it's labor. And the jeans would have been close to $300. So, and then to oversee that before I really got heavily into television, um, I lived on and off in Hong Kong for 2 years, following the production to make sure it was just right. So,
Yeah, I had a small item that I had made samples of and so forth, and it's sold. And I went to American company to produce it, where they had like 300 sewing machines and only 100 people working, and they wanted 3 times as much to make the item as what it would be sold for here in the
exactly.
United States. It was impossible.
Impossible. So, this whole made in America thing, I think you got to put some reality and practicality into that, and it may not be actually the best place to produce, but you know, when I was a kid and I was born in 1945, there was not even mass produced fashion. My mother, like 4 times a year, we would go to a seamstress. It was kind of really fun. Pick all our fabrics, and then, oh, I wanted a black felt poodle skirt, but I wanted the poodle to be red. I already was doing my designing at the age of 5. And then it doesn't seem to me that we really went into mass production until the early 70s. And made in America doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's made in America. I hate to say it, but the Chinese had an incredible work ethic, and those factories are actually, you have living quarters in them. You're there 11 months of the year. 1 month, Chinese New Year's, you go home to whatever province you're from and your family. You're fed 3 meals a day. And I mean, the labor is obviously like $1 a day, but it's called fast fashion. And that is really where I made my mark. And I was very sad to see what the garment district was when I came to New York around 1974 and what it is today, which is it's not even the garment district. I mean, 1 or 2 buildings, that's about it. So amazing to be in a career long enough to see it go through massive changes.
Were you?
Where
I know they use your name, and you're the designer, but are you actually involved in the production and the distribution in
Sure,
those
of
areas?
course. Oh, yeah, I was 100% involved. I loved my product. When I designed that jean, the DG2 jean, and I saw the response from the audience, that was my baby. That was my child. Those women that loved that jean became my family. I was involved in it. I worked 24/7. The old saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. That was absolutely me. 24/7 on the job, and loved every minute of it. So actually, when I went into cancer treatment, I remember coming home from chemotherapy the first day and thinking to myself, oh, so this is how some women live. They they don't work. They get to watch their favorite soap opera. I mean, there was a novelty to it. I had never, from the age of 9, not worked almost every day of my life. So there was that. But yeah, of course, I watched production, and I did not win a lot of popularity contests in factories because I wanted it done the right way. I wanted the women to always feel that they had gotten a bargain, that what they bought was so worth it and more. And that's a good ethos for selling product and building your customer. And I
Could you do this?
appreciated my customers.
Could you do the same thing today in Hong Kong with the situation between China and Hong Kong?
You could never do it in No, Hong Kong did not, and Hong Kong stopped being a production center probably about 15 years ago. There's a tremendous amount of chafing and hostility between Hong Kong and China. I would not stay in China when I was watching production. They would come to me in Hong Kong, but they were right across, the border. And then when COVID hit, even for people within my organization, nobody was going. I think you're crazy if you go to China at this point. Crazy. From the COVID point of view, from the hostility point of view between the two countries because of Taiwan, I just, and I do not know where the next great production center on the planet would be. So they've tried,
Mars.
trust me.
So I live in New York. Where is the garment district? What is that? Where is that? And that's
7th
how.
Avenue between 42nd Street and 34th Street. And then it used to be 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue. But now there's almost nothing left. There's some showrooms. COVID changed everything too. COVID not only broke up that rhythm that you needed office apparel. You were in an office every day. And you were willing, I think, to suffer a certain lack of comfort for the look. But COVID changed all of that. COVID taught everybody, yeah, no, you can do business and be in a pair of sweatpants and a sloppy t-shirt and be uber comfortable and not go through a 4-hour-a-day commute, and it's all good. So that meant if you were going to do clothing, it needed to be cheaper still, and you needed much less of it. And that was also a real deciding factor in me leaving. I had been in fashion since I was 25, so I left at 77. So let's just say I was in fashion for 50 years. And I felt that the final change, the COVID change, everybody was waiting for the COVID effect to fade. But it didn't, because once you get people comfort at very small prices, why would they ever want to go back to being uncomfortable and spending a large part of their paycheck? So fashion, if I was going to do fashion again, I would go for fashion that was sensitive to global warming.
I was going to say, yeah.
I would make clothing that made you cool in the summertime. I would make clothing that superheated you in the wintertime. I would go for it from that point of view. And once again, give people something they might not know they need until they see it, but then realize they really can't live without it. That would be my deal.
We got 15 minutes left, but diving into your book, at the beginning you mentioned I wanted to ask you, really, as you got older, the sort of invisibility
that you felt and all that.
It's natural. I mean, you get to 50 years old and guess what? There's 2 generations right behind you breathing down your neck. And they're young and they're perfect and they're brave and fearless and they want to have a good time. And you're slowing down and you're gaining weight and you're getting that tire around the middle and you can't have kids anymore. And it is an entirely new ball game and not one that many women look forward to. And men do not suffer through that the way women do. But I noticed as I got into my 50s that I was an attractive younger woman. And I was at Studio 54 every night. I mean, I liked the nightlife. I liked what New York had to offer in terms of sophisticated nightlife. And I think I was pretty glamorous at Studio 54, although I look at some of the pictures today and think, oh my God, was I really wearing that outfit? But so as you get older, especially if you're not married, I lost the guy I live with to cancer. You start to see you don't count anymore. You are not on the availability market. Now, you may still feel the same inside, but you're not looking the same outside. And what? In New York, there's 10 women to every man. So if you're going to survive middle age as a woman, you've got to develop something of consequence in your life. For me, it was my company and, doing 100 million a year at retail. That became my calling card. That became my identity. Not how men saw me, but how the world and my audience saw me. And then television gave me a voice, and I was forced to learn communication skills. And television gave me a lot of prestige as well. That helped me get through middle age. And now, I came out of cancer. I decided I wanted to have white hair. I didn't want to dye my hair. I didn't want to get chemicals next to my brain. But I wanted to give off a truthful message about aging, which is you can really find your niche within aging and make it pretty great. And, as a white-haired woman, it then becomes totally different. So, I don't know. It's just the whole thing is a challenge. And I think each individual woman, if you're lucky enough to have a lasting marriage and have someone that stays by your side most of your life, that's fabulous. And you're going to feel a little different about aging because you've got a mate that's aging with you. And I think it sort of softens the blow. But I became the equivalent of a widow at 52. And honestly, it was tough. I mean, I couldn't believe it, how much weight I gained, how different my hair looked, how different my skin looked, and oh my God, and now I'm on TV, and what am I going to do about all of this? But I would say that having an accomplishment, designing a jean that went around the world and really revolutionized tele-retailing fashion-wise and my industry, fashion, that softened the blow because I was still getting, when you think of yourself as a younger female, you're getting a lot of attention. And as a middle-aged female, I went on getting that attention. It just shifted from men to a female audience, and that was satisfying enough. But yeah, it was tough. Being a widow in my 50s, and he died of cancer. So you can imagine when I got diagnosed with cancer, all I thought about was the suffering he went through. And was that going to be me? Because at that time, prostate cancer and colon cancer, you sort of didn't stand a chance. So that was all mixed into me. Wow. And my journey or my tumble into the dark pit of middle age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of personal shifts that you had to make, but I feel like societally that there should or needs to be a lot of shifts as well, right?
Oh, I mean, there has to be, and I think the shift now is, 20,000 Americans a day turn 65. Hello, we are the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and yet we don't have any role. As a female, a white-haired female, I don't have any imagery. I don't have any role models. There's nobody where I could go and say, yeah, oh, she's a big star. She wears her white hair that way. I'm going to try that. It was like being in the Amazon, hacking through the jungle with a little dinner knife. There is the next big societal shift in this country will be recognizing that we are a graying nation and that silver should equal gold in the marketplace, whichever marketplace that is. Entertainment, take it from there. But, having Martha Stewart at 81 on the cover of Sports Illustrated, that was a great step forward. Having Michelle Yeoh at 65 years old win Best Actress, having Jamie Lee Curtis at 65 win Best Supporting Actress, and having the other nominee, Angela Bassett, at 64 nominated. Those are the societal shifts I'm watching closely to see how the biggest generation on earth, the baby boomer, who also had the biggest mouth and loudest megaphone, how we regain our voice and become a force again.
Well, advertising, you can see it's all changed now. The type of models they're putting on. I see they have some, I'll say, large women doing some
large women,
ads and,
large women, not older women, but that will come. That will come.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because actually, my head salesman, who also got through prostate cancer, the guy that we helped one another through the whole thing, his daughter is a large size girl. She's, I think, a 16, 18. And she was just chosen as the first Victoria's Secret's angel who's large size, and she will walk the runway this fall. And that is a huge accomplishment and step forward. So, bravo.
That's what I'm saying. They've really are trying to change the image.
Oh, it's working. Trust me.
You've got an army of women that are making the change.
You've got 1/3 of American women who are a plus size. Now I believe it's actually 1/2. And they're also, where's their representation? I mean, it's absurd that we keep to this super young, super thin image when it is so disconnected from reality. And the same thing is true for businesses. You can't ignore us. We're here and we're probably going to live to 99 or 100. And don't be stupid. You could be making money off of us for the next 50 years if you just recognize how worthy we are. We're no longer a graying nation where you turn gray and you're shoved aside. And you know what? If you are in the corporate world, which does not value age at all, then get out of the corporate world and do something else.
I don't think it only applies to women. I think it applies to men also. I know a fellow who was a writer in Hollywood. Now maybe he turned and became a businessman, successful. But he used to tell me that after a certain age that you can't make it as a writer, which makes no sense to me.
It's true, because I had a friend who was a really well-respected writer in Hollywood and actually wrote the script for a big hit movie with Reese Witherspoon. And when she turned 59, 60, her agent said, your chances of getting another script through are nil. Think about doing something else. Write for a newspaper, write for a major publication. So you can't ignore us now. There's too many of us and we're living too long. So that is my other mission in life is, damn it, respect us, work with us, honor us, and embrace us.
Well, Brandon disappeared.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. You know what? This is the first time I don't usually disagree that often, but I'm gonna disagree just a little bit.
Okay.
One before I disagree though, I want to say that I always love hearing a viewpoint that I do not get to hear from that very often. So hearing from like middle age fashion and the woman's perspective is like cool. The insight, like great. Um, the only thing I would be like maybe not. I would go say like silver hair for going hair wise and then age wise and representation. Oh, white women are all over. Betty White. That's the first person I thought of, and I could think of a whole list of people. I was like, as soon as you were saying this, I was like, I could think of all types of old white women that are everywhere in movies. And Mike said Martha Stewart. What's that one lady that was a cook when she taught herself after her husband died? Like London or something. It's like, what's her name? She's a cook. She's a very famous cook. She had a cooking show.
Julia Childs?
There it is. There it is. Wasn't she? Didn't she?
She
Wasn't she a
was
famous older
older when she was discovered, but you have to understand something. I don't want to be Betty White. I don't want to be one of the freaking Golden Girls.
Okay.
I want to be a freestanding, respected, active woman who's included in a lot of interesting things at ground level and not shunted aside. So I am not a Golden Girl.
No,
And
I
I
get
do
you.
not see my life as a comedy. Right? So
Okay. Hillary Clinton. All right. What about the well, RBJ? Oh my God, I'm so bad. I'm terrible at names.
That's not what she's talking about, Phines. She said I want the Keke Palmer treatment. I want to be everywhere. I want that podcast.
everywhere,
I want that TV
all at
host.
once,
I want that show.
all the time.
I want my own show.
Like,
I want people inviting me places.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you want to know something? Here's the total advantage, and I'm just hearing a disconnected female voice here, but the total advantage is if you can keep yourself vaguely together like I have, and I'm, really inching up there to 80. Oh my God, they never see you coming. They never expect you
It's true.
to be what you are. And so I went to a really cool fashion event out in the Hamptons last week. And they were like, oh my God, you're so fabulous. And your fabulosity is just too much. And it wasn't that I was so fabulous. You just don't expect an 80-year-old to attend the event and still be standing and still look relatively okay and still have a functioning brain left. So the big advantage of growing older is you'll ace it almost every time because no one expects you to.
You'll always exceed the expectations.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I like that.
No Betty White. No, I'm going to go to bed thinking about that tonight. Like, I don't want to be Betty White. I liked Betty White, but
I love Betty White. She's very positive. She
was another optimist. Totally. That's what I loved about her.
A great artist.
Yeah.
Just saying. I like Morgan Freeman. I would love to be like Morgan Freeman after I get.
Fabulous.
I'm just saying.
So fabulous.
He'd be great.
Yeah. Truly. But on the other hand, just from the women's perspective, Morgan Freeman has a girlfriend who's 58 years younger than him. Al Pacino at 83 is having a child with a 29-year-old, and Robert De Niro just had his seventh child at the age of 80. Now,
and then we don't bat an eye at it. I'm just sorry, like it's the other way around.
No, we do.
And you turn that around, and if I walked out in public to a New York event or a Hamptons event with a guy 30 years younger than me, I would be so shamed. I would go crawl under a rock somewhere and never come out. So we're not talking about apples to apples and oranges to oranges here.
Not at all.
Women age differently. They age harder. They have more societal eyes on them saying you can't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't be this way, And that's why it's so confusing to age as a female, and why we need leaders. We need women to look up to and say, I love the way she did it. Now I have a guideline to doing it that way. So I hope to be one of those guiding lights.
I appreciate you being able to, that'll be my last word too, getting out of here, is I appreciate, always have a place for someone to be able to, like, talk about this stuff so someone can hear it and be like.
And talk about it honestly. Yeah.
Exactly. I think, I can't speak for Brandon and Grandpa, but it's always nice to be able to hear a point of view that you just don't get to, like, I wouldn't have to even think about it that often until it's put in front of me, unfortunately, and I appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I agree with a lot of what you've said, and I'm really glad that you've been on the show because, you're right. I think that's really interesting what you're saying about having a role model that's like not just like someone to look up to. That's like, okay, well, this is also like an older woman. This is that just does their thing, but someone who's maybe more active or like almost like a leader.
Yep.
Someone who's more active in advocating for like their peers, I think.
Yes.
Is maybe a good way to put it. Someone who's saying like, I'm out here, I want the rest of y'all out here. We should like being more of a representative instead of, because I feel like Betty White's thing was just like, I'm Betty White. I'm her. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm Betty. I do my thing. And we love Betty for that. But like, we need more people that are able to say like, because like now in media, like as a Black person or as a Black woman, like we do have a lot more like public facing mentors and leaders that are saying like,
and ways to be beautiful. Like you have a million gorgeous Black women from the music industry and the movie industry, and you could say, oh, I want to wear that dress. Oh, I love that hair. Oh, blah, blah. But when you get to be me, think about it. When is the last time on the red carpet or in a magazine, online or not, or in a fashion show, you saw a white-haired little lady like me?
You need like some, your generation, your group, you need like some Kikis. You need some Issa Raes that are saying, I'm here, I do this, and I am looking hard for anybody else like me that also wants to do this.
I do that, and that's why we go to at least one, if not two special events a week. I want to show women you can come out of your hiding place. You don't have to hide as an older woman. You can come out of your shell, and there's plenty for you to do. And because otherwise it can be a really lonely time in your life, and you really don't want that. You want to celebrate these years.
Loneliness is as deadly as heart disease.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling us now.
Yeah. And
so absolutely. I'm so glad that you came.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that you're able to share
I appreciate
like all of your positivity and what you've learned about going through it.
Yep. And still going through it.
Still going through it.
So, gentlemen, yes?
Well, you have a lovely, positive attitude, and I can understand why you've been as successful as you are, and just keep that positive attitude.
Forever. Where's the bird? Where'd the bird go?
He went into his cage by himself now. He went into his cage, yeah.
She's so cute. That is so cute. So thank you. I think that positive attitude at this point is pretty baked in as a survivor of many Mount Everest climbs in my life. And what about you, sir? Do you have parting words for me? I guess. Okay.
We have had a string of maybe 5 or 6 very serious episodes of very sort of like life and death topics, very cancer, dementia, all these really difficult things. And I just think that your approach to it and your power and positivity is just incredible and really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm super grateful that with all you've done, you decided to come to our show.
This is a very different kind of podcast than I've ever done before. So I can see a couple of you. I can't see the other two of you. So I'm sort of speaking to disconnected voices. But if you've got a passion in life like I do, and I discovered my passion from being on TV and designing that middle-aged jean and realizing at the height of my teleretailing career, I had 750,000 women as a fan base. So I knew I was giving a message that women were resonating to, but I couldn't give a big enough message because it was television for selling, and you had dollars per minute on your brain all the time and in your earpiece. It was refreshing to step back from that, take that message, broaden it, start to perfect it, and make it right for social media and YouTube. And I love doing podcasts. And so, good place to be, valid message to give, authentic human being, walking the walk and talking the talk. And I thank you so much for giving me a venue where I can speak about what I'm so invested in.
Speaking of socials, where can people find you?
So it's thedianegilman.com or the Diane Gilman. You can go to YouTube and that will have and everything, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, it's all the Diane Gilman. And the name of my podcast is the title of my book, Too Young to Be Old, which is all about what's in your brain. And for all of you, I wish for all of you that you are forever too young to be old.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Podcasting with Grandpa Bart and Rosie, always on his shoulder. This is Grandpa and Chill.
Grandpa and Chill is brought to you by your hosts, Brandon Fox, Bart Frank, and Phines Jackson. Our producer is Sierra Doss. To watch and listen to full episodes of the show and follow us on social media, visit grandpaandchill.com. That's grandpaandchill.com.